The ginkgo had a sort of strength that the cherry doesn't, he said. I've been thinking the ones that live long are different from the others. It must take a great deal of strength for an old tree like that to put out leaves in the fall. But there's something sad about them. I've been wondering whether they'd be as big as the leaves that came out in the spring, but they refuse to grow. Hi, this is Aisha and welcome to a new video review of Readadayclub. And in today's video, I will be talking about The Sound of the Mountain by Yasunari Kawabata. The Sound of the Mountain offers a very distinct perspective on family life, morality, grief, post-war trauma and sort of an acclimatization, getting used to certain shifts in society. It's this quality of the book that it draws from so many wells that allows the reader to sort of come to terms with the implementation of the modern ideas and modern thoughts that slowly sort of seep into both the major and minor details of the protagonist's life. Right from the first page itself, I was introduced to one of the major themes of the story, and that is memory. Now, this is on the first page where the protagonist, Shingo, forgets the name of the maid that used to work in his house, and who had just quit 5 days ago, and he claimed to have not remembered anything about her. So it's right from this tangent that you understand, there's some sort of an unmaking of memory, and when you understand this in this book, it carries so much depth and meaning when you compare it with old age, memory, love, loss, infidelity and loneliness, and also the shedding of a self, that is the inevitable consequence, the side effect in fact of trauma and war. Now, the father, Shingo, is 62 years old and he is the protagonist of the story. It is through him and around him that you understand, that Kawabata wants you to understand the role of nature in human emotions and the role of human emotions in nature. There is also Shingo's wife, Yasuko, who is a year older than him. There is their son, Shuichi, who lives with his wife, and also their daughter with her two children. So the entire story houses 3 whole generations. This is an important tangent of The Sound of the Mountain. It is something that also helps the reader understand the story a little bit more deeply, more profoundly, is that this is more than just a book about the relationship between a parent and a child. It also is about that invisible thread that sort of seeps through the hierarchy of a family, wherein you understand the meaning and purpose of an individual, the role of one at different stages of life. A film that I recently watched that I think evokes a similar sentiment in terms of family life and the patriarchal echelon is Still Walking by Hirokazu Koreeda. And it's Hirokazu Koreeda. It plays such a crucial role, how two people, especially a parent and a child, communicate with each other and are even aware of each other's presence in a room or when walking outdoors. And that coexistence between a parent and a child is something that Kawabata echoes poetically all throughout the story. He also tackles themes of age, love and loss, loneliness, infidelity, memory, friendship through Shingo's own consciousness, allowing his readers to form a very intimate and sort of a clarifying recognition of, if not a complete connection with, the protagonist, who is lost and isolated, misunderstood, perhaps even unsettled yet perceptive. And it is from this tangent also that Kawabata explains the meaning of the book's title, The Sound of the Mountain. Now, I will not ruin anything for you, with regards to how and why The Sound of the Mountain sort of adds to the characterization of Shingo's character and his relationship with his wife and children. But what I will tell you, and what I think I picked up instantly, was that The Sound of the Mountain appeals to many instances in life about, that sort of centered around one's self-exploration. To grow older, to lose one's understanding and awareness of beauty that in this story is dramatically attached to one's youth, to marriage to health to love and loss and finally to death. Now, The Sound of the Mountain may seem like a simple and straightforward story, but it is very tragic and it is very complex. There are a lot of problems that come up with all the characters in the story, especially Shingo, and they eventually worsen with time. Now, as the story progresses, I feel that the individual narratives of each character read like puzzles that Kawabata wants you to just be aware of, if not actually solve, by the end of the story. Now, such deep and complex human experiences are often accompanied in the book by metaphors and descriptions of nature. Kawabata carefully plucks out provocative imagery in order to describe human emotions. The volcanic shifts of love and loss, loneliness and infidelity, with the help of nature as represented and perceived by the mind's eye. Now, when I say represented, I don't mean what nature sort of exudes on its own, what it means on its own, but rather how we perceive nature through our own subjective lens, based on how we are feeling, based on how we can process our emotions on a day-to-day basis. And that's one of the best things about this book, because you understand that much of what we see in reality is not a result of our objective interpretation of objects and our relation to those things, but it is based on how we feel and the scope of our self-awareness and our self-deception. There's an entire scene in the story about cherry blossoms and how in a particular season they are full of life, they are full of energy, and they are sort of blooming with blossoms. And it's that very same tree, it's a wonder how a tree could bear so many cherry blossoms. And it's that very same tree at a different season, at a different stage in life, sort of wither away. It allows those same cherry blossoms to dry and become dull and lifeless and sort of fall into the ground. And that is very characteristic of how we as humans function and feel at different stages of our life. This function of nature, the decaying and blossoming of a tree, is likened to old age, and also to the dissolution of old values, of old traditional values. There is another instance in the story where Shingo's friend is that sort of presses on the phenomena of old age and memory loss and receding youth, most importantly, where one of Shingo's old friends during his older years has this chronic habit of pulling out white hair, and only white hair, from all over his body. And no matter how many strands of white hair he plucks out, they never stop growing. So he never runs out of white hair to pull, which eventually drives him crazy. By the end of this description, there's a question that comes up that I still, that seems so relevant to how Kawabata has sort of compared receding youth to receding desires and decaying hopes, So here's that question. No one seems to know whether he started pulling it out, that is, pulling it out refers to the white hair, because he had lost his mind, or he lost his mind because he pulled out too much. So the character's inability to sort of come to terms with white hair is very carefully, very lyrically connected with Shingo's inability to realize that he's losing control, he's losing his say in family matters. And so in the end, the whole point is that nobody actually wants to lose black hair. Nobody actually wants to see their desires and their hopes and dreams and sort of just an awareness of being sort of wither away and fade out. So it's obvious from this analogy how old age, memory, receding youth play such an important role, have such a deep impact on the lives of the book's characters. The same desperation that Kawabata also extends to Shingo's experiences of dreams. So there is one quote, read 33, underlined. He had reached an age when most of his friends were dead. It was perhaps natural that he should dream of the dead. This in itself, the whole concept of dreams adds a whole new dimension to understanding The Sound of the Mountain. Kawabata adds layer upon layer to Shingo's problems, and he also does this to portray the ambiguity of human nature. This layering and patterning of human thought and emotions is served to us in The Sound of the Mountain as if it's a dream. Shingo questions time and again why he dreams what he dreams. So he has these vivid dreams of his, sort of youthful desires and pleasures and sex and perhaps and even women, a sort of rekindling of old hopes and dreams. So clearly in the deeper recesses of Shingo's mind, he feels lost and isolated. The unconscious shelves of Shingo's mind consists of fading memories and decaying desires, right up to his present moment, which he genuinely feels confined to. Sensations, these lingering effects that his dreams, these really sharp dreams leave behind, is something that he has never experienced in reality, because his experiences with his wife and his children have become very monotonous and tedious. So poetically speaking, the petals of his marriage have fallen and withered, much like the cherry blossom that sort of decays and looks dull and lifeless, becoming completely devoid of color and scent. At 62, an absence of sensual dreams would not be unusual, but what puzzled him now was the positive flavorlessness, dryness of it all. Contemplating these fragments of life with the help of literature is one of the gifts of The Sound of the Mountain. In my Instagram review of the book, I mentioned something like that there are certain moments of life we cherish more in the literary world than we do in reality. Maybe this is because we do not exist in these fictive realms of beauty, desires, and dreams. We aren't part of these portraits, and the only way to sort of participate and become cognizant of complexities of such characters is by letting go of our own. So Kawabata's lucid prose allows me to do this without limiting myself to any one single narrative. Now, I hope that after watching this video, you do read this book. But to be honest, I don't think anyone can convince you to read Yasunari Kawabata as well as his own prose. Sharing my thoughts here is just another way to pique your curiosity about this book and to deepen my interest in this book, and also to view it from different points of view. So this is Aisha from Read a Day Club. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any book recommendations or feedback, please feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys next time.